Hey everyone, welcome to the That's Allowed podcast. I'm your hostess, Dr. Audrian McKeon, and today we're here with Stacy Dyson. Please introduce yourself.
Well, hi everybody. I am a Black female performance poet, and that clarification is mandatory because all of those classifications are necessary to the way I breathe. Um, I write and perform my own original poetry. I've been doing this for I've been doing performance for at least 40 years, but I've been a poet since I was 5. And I'm about to be 63. So, for a minute, been doing this for a minute. Um, Chapbooks and CDs. The latest book is called Lovely and Suffering. We'll talk about that later. I've got another manuscript. Follow me on this on the way. The thimble description is no husband, no kids, no cats. That about covers everything else.
So you're as single as can be.
I'm trying. Well, I mean, single has that even now in these supposedly liberated
Mm.
times, ha ha ha, has that pejorative ring to it.
Mm,
I am unencumbered
indeed.
by choice. How long that's going to last, who knows? I might be married by the end of the year. My horoscope says I'm getting married by the end of the year.
Well then.
Yeah, my horoscope is full of never mind, but
All
you know,
right.
this is roughly along the lines of, sure, I could be pregnant, but you would need 3 wise men and a star in the east. I mean,
Exactly. Yes. So, my dear, what is the story the world isn't getting?
there are so many stories the
So
world isn't
many.
getting. The big one they're not getting is that women and women of color specifically
Hmm.
are through. We're done. This the whole stereotype of the angry black woman, whatever. Yeah, that's no longer something that we're trying to stay away from. It's like, yeah, we're pissed and we want to talk about it and we're not going to be quiet about it. And then just women worldwide, I think, are finally discovering that their voices do actually have power. They're the ones telling their stories now, not handing them over to other people to dilute or manage or whatever. Um,
And
one
why
of
is that
the
important?
Because nobody is going to tell our stories but us, not the right way,
Not the right way.
and not in the time they need to be told.
Mm, hmm.
No, there's a whole generation of younger women who are coming up saying, wait a minute, we see it's not working. Why aren't you talking about it?
Yeah.
Because we need to know how to talk about it. So this is how shall I say, a mission of care, I guess, a mandate of care, I should say. If we don't keep talking, having now discovered that we can do it and that we have to do it, if we don't keep that up, the Handmaid's Tale is looking like a real possibility.
Yep. So, that said,
Hmm.
tell us a little bit more about your journey. How have you come to this place of I'm done. I'm just going to tell it like it is.
Because for a lot of years I didn't, or I cloaked it.
Yeah.
There's a My generation is the generation of this is how you act in public because people are watching. This is
Yeah.
how you speak because people are listening. This is how, and you better behave, speak, whatever that way. I understand it and I actually applaud it. This was the way that Black parents, certainly my parents, kept us safe.
Hmm.
If you're not sticking out, if you're polite, if you're soft voice, if doing all that. And so most of my career has been dedicated to tell the truth, but keep it diplomatic, keep it, relatively soft. Few zingers in there for the people who are actually paying attention. And then Idiot Boy got elected. And I had it actually, I literally sat down and had this conversation with myself about what you're doing isn't going to work anymore. You have got the things that you have been keeping bottled up, you have to say, because I'm not going to say that I wasn't writing good poetry. I was. I'm not going to say that I wasn't doing really good performances, because I was. But there was always that little bit of me that was kind of holding back. And so when I hit 60, I told my housemate, well, the filters are off. Ha 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 ha. The only filter actually that really dropped, that I really just permanently laid to rest, was this: stop being afraid of how people are going to perceive you. And that always be reasonable, always be diplomatic. Again, I get the reason for that. I applaud it. But it very much got to the point where it wasn't working. And then, as I say, when Idiot Boy got into office and I saw the things that were happening, I got scared.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot afford to keep doing this. So the voice started to change. And then when the pandemic hit and the streets blew up, and I was seeing people who looked like me getting murdered every day for fun, it's like, okay, then it went up a level. It's like, that's it. I'm done. We cannot afford to not be known as angry, to not be known as, there's loud and there's loud and effective.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be loud and effective. And people who have known me for years are like, okay, who are you? Retinal scan, flash some ID, because this is not the person that we know. They always knew I was capable of this. And quite honestly, I think if the pandemic had not come along, I probably would have gotten to this point a lot more slowly.
Yeah.
I didn't have the luxury of time,
Yeah.
um, and I was in pain. I mean, any thinking, feeling person for the last year and a half, seeing what's been going on with women, with communities of color, with the LGBT community, all of those folks, has been in pain. Here's the breakdown. I would be absolutely useless on the street protesting. Okay. I have arthritis. I can't move that fast. Okay. That's the pure, that's the breakdown on that. And so when the protests were going on, and the pandemic was going on, I also have autoimmune, so I couldn't be out,
Yeah.
outing and bouting amongst
Mm-hmm.
whoever. And that really bothered me, um, on a whole lot of different levels. And then, again, another conversation. What is it that you do best in the world? Do that.
Yeah.
So once I, as much as I hate the phrase, put my head in that space, then it was like, oh, okay, yes, this I can do well, and this I can make effect with, which is, what got me. I'm not going to say through the pandemic, because big news for those of you who don't know, it's not over yet.
It's still
Um,
happening.
it got me through that first part of the pandemic. That, and a housemate who understands when to leave me alone. um, and the other thing that got me through because they're little things. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us depended on little things. When you've lived your entire life on stage, not being on stage will kill you.
Amen.
I was losing my mind. I really was. And so fine, and my housemate, bless her heart, got to see all this. And so finally she said, you know what? The front yard's big enough. Um, so we invited like 8, 9 people over, social distance masks, There was a dedicated little space for me, like 7 feet away from everybody else. So, she made me a little stage area, and she put me back into live performance. It is the only thing that kept me from losing my entire mind. Um, that and figuring out that I could have my groceries delivered. So,
The little things.
well, yeah, and I'm being facetious to a point, but I think a lot of people discovered it was the little things that were helping them hang on.
Yes.
Because let's not kid ourselves. This was not a year and a half of, yes, I'm living through it. This was a year and a half of, I am hanging on through this. So those little things, the grocery deliveries, yeah, the being able to do some sort of live performance, the knowing that there was a book coming out of this,
Yeah.
there had to be, for me, a book coming out of this. Yeah,
Tell me
that's what
about
got,
that. Why did there have to be a book coming out of this?
because again, I can't be out in the street. you know I
Yeah.
can't, I mean, I can, I can't climb a ladder, get on the roof with a microphone. Okay, my knee and my ankle would never put up with it. It's, practicalities. And again, I've been doing this before. This is what I am best at in the world. um, I grew up with ringing in my ears, with right comes responsibility. Okay, I got given this. I did not wake up, one morning and say, I want to be a poet. Nobody in their right mind says that or does that. God gave this to me. I do not have the right to not use it for its best effect. I have a responsibility to make sure that the words get out there. I don't get to just write it and keep it for myself in little files somewhere for rainy days. So there was that. Um, I also knew that if I didn't write what I was feeling, I was going to spontaneously combust. There were days when all I did was cry. There were days where I was just, everything I had just ached. There were days when I was majorly just overwhelmed by everything that was happening that we're supposed to be past. Okay. Um, Breonna Taylor died almost 2 years ago. I'm still crying when I think about her.
Yeah.
Um, the the abject, in your face, no, this country is not yours,
Yeah.
realization, that hurt. It really did, because that's not what I was raised thinking. The I say in one of my poems, the fairy stories are our birthright, basically. The ones about everybody's equal, and the ones about, you're going to be judged by the content of your character, not the color of your skin. I mean, my generation was raised on all that stuff, and a lot of us, including me, for a long time believed it. The last 4 years, and especially the last year and a half, just went rip, haha, guess what? And that's a really hard thing to take, and an even harder thing to accept. But it came to a point where I didn't have a choice. It was right there in front of me. It was,
2020 was for a lot of people, the year of clear vision, of seeing things as they are.
and that's painful. That's always painful.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, so, you got this pain, you got this angst, you got the days where you're crying, you've got, all this stuff that you've been thinking. What is it exactly you were planning on doing? Do what you do, poet it, talk about it, let other people hear and see it, because you're not the only one feeling this, and you're not the only one who's up to now been afraid. Is good, afraid to say it. There are poems that I write now that I know are going to piss people off in the worst possible way. I'm okay with that. I never really much cared for what I used to. The running joke used to be there are three people in the universe whose opinions I care about, and you're not on the list. Okay.
Would you
Um,
be willing to give us an example?
I have a point.
Yeah.
Sure. Um, let's see. I don't want to do Breonna's song because I will cry.
Okay.
And well, shoot, because I would cry, then I need to do it, and the poem needs to be heard
Yeah.
anyway. 27 erased by 8 equals blood on Daniel Cameron's hands. 27 erased by 8 equals no more dreaming and still no justice, even now. 27 erased by 8 only equals more struggle and rest in power. And I know that mother's tears falling century down century did not keep you safe. I am sorry that our soft voices and white gloved hands and choir singing were not enough to keep you safe. Sorry that trying to fit into this tapestry, sacrificing to fit into this supposedly sweet and welcoming tapestry was not enough. Our not being angry was not enough to keep you breathing. And I don't know what you had planned for your birthday, but I do know that you were a woman, not a symbol. I know that sometime you must have fussed with your hair, fussed at your man, fussed about your job, got loud with your girls, got out in the streets singing and swinging and blinging so you could forget about your day, laid up in the bed some days, watching the rain, made love, made plans. I know that as a black woman, there were some days you couldn't take it anymore, felt like you couldn't see one more horror, but you stayed in the game, went back the next day, did your job. There were days when you just got tired of being a black woman because that's what black women do. That's what and who we are. We did everything we were supposed to. We trusted and prayed and held our heads up and made way out of no way. We took it. We worked with it. We held on, held it down, did the work, held it down, held it together, held on while this country, this place did every wicked thing it could to tear us apart. We did everything we could, used every way we know, every day and night, living the way we are supposed to live to save our children, and it still wasn't enough. Are holding it down, fighting the system, setting streets on fire, soft words, bowed heads, white gloves, swallowed humiliations, and words and tears and songs and suffering wasn't enough. The way we have been told we need to live our entire lives wasn't enough. You were still not safe. You were our daughter, our auntie, our little sister. No, not our mother. Never anyone's mother. We tried everything. You died anyway. Right now, you are on your way to becoming an icon. Your name will go down as a martyr to the cause. I am truly sorry for that, because no one deserves such a hellish honor. 27 erased by 8 should not equal political expedience, cover-ups, lies, does not justify or explain the dirt they tried to bury you with. 27 erased by 8 and wrong, and a mother who will never sleep again because her baby sleeps too young and forever. Why? For what? All she wanted, all anyone ever wants, is to be human, flawed and free and human, flawed and alive and free and human.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So, how has this experience changed you? You said earlier that the one filter you've decided to leave off permanently is caring what other people think.
Well, again, family legend has it that I stopped caring about what other people thought when I was 6. So just
So,
And because this, again, this is not a profession that anybody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I'm going to be a poet. Okay. People used to be committed in the last century for, saying things like that. Lord knows my mother was not amused. And so there's always been that I'm going to do what I want regardless.
Yeah.
But in terms of my voice, it's always been okay. You can get more people to the table if you are calm and diplomatic and, patient and okay. And that started slipping a little bit. And the older I got, the more impatient I got with people who just would not say what they needed to say. But I also recognize that the quickest way to alienate somebody is just to get up in their face and scream at them. Nobody learns anything that way.
Yeah.
So I went along, being calm and patient and, doing all that stuff. And then, like I said, the streets turned to fire. And I didn't have a choice anymore. I had to change. Um, what is the Darwinian thing about adaptation? And that's fine, but that takes forever, and I didn't have forever.
Yeah.
I personally, in me, for me, was looking and seeing. I how shall I say, the changes that I saw were too small and not far-reaching enough. The performative nonsense that went on and still goes on in the name of, why, yes, we are all the same. No, we're not. And I was getting tired of conversations about, we're all the same. No, we're not. We should all be treated the same. Absolutely. We should all have the same rights. Absolutely. We are not the same. And there are, I wrote a couple of poems that address that. But one of the things that I was posting before any of the poems came about was, if you don't see color, you don't see me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why, when you asked in the introduction, who are you? I'm a Black woman. It makes a difference.
Yep.
Okay. First of all, it's not like I can pass. Okay. This is not okay. It's kind of obvious, right here. If you if you're looking dead at me and you're saying I don't see color, then that just means I'm invisible to you. And that level of disrespect, that level of disregarding who somebody is, just because it's convenient for you to say, oh, there's only, I've had people say this to me so often, there's only one race, the human race. Get away from me. Okay. Just go sit in the corner somewhere and think about what you did bad. Okay, but stay away from me. That soothing syrup that people have fed to themselves until they think it's going to work on everybody else. On my good days, I call that being disingenuous. On my bad days, I call it hypocrisy. I had a lot of bad days last year.
Mm-hmm. I have always felt like you can't actually change anyone's mind. That's not actually a thing that is possible. People
Mm.
change their own minds when their hearts change.
I
And
I think I think as a poet, it's part of my job to make sure people change their minds. Okay.
right,
Words, if you use them right, will do that. Do you have to hit their hearts first? Sure, absolutely. So you bring them in with the foolishness like Chocolate Blues, some little ditty of a poem I wrote about, it was okay if I lost my man, but I better not lose my Nestle's Crunch. Because people have priorities. Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, there's, I mean, you can't walk in heavy handed right from the start. Again, if you jump into somebody's face and start screaming, nobody hears anything. And that's not to say you can't be angry, indignant, whatever, but you got to get them there first. Whoopi Goldberg has in, is it Sister Act? It's either Sister Act 1 or 2. I can't remember. Where she tells Mother Superior, you got to get the butts in the seats. If you want change, you got to get the butts in the seats. Um, I'm relatively adept at doing that.
Yeah. Well, where I was going with that is not really the whole, catch more flies with vinegar than honey thing, with honey
Mm-hmm.
than vinegar thing. I was thinking more when we can show people our pain and they actually
Mm-hmm.
can empathize, that's a really powerful shift.
Absolutely.
When they can
Absolutely.
actually see it and feel it with you. And I think that's part of, we have silenced that pain for so long and said, we don't want to hear it, we don't want to see it, we don't want to talk about your pain. Like, get over it.
So,
And
I've
that's
had people tell me, I hate it whenever somebody says, I really love your poetry. I know what's coming. I really,
is there
but
a but?
the but is just hanging. But, you're clearly, they always say clearly, you're clearly not a victim, and in your poetry, you come off as victim. Yeah.
Excuse me? Because you know
And,
what, guys?
and I'm always kind of such to say, what voice, um, I am not in the conqueror's position here. Okay. If you are being subordinated by another structure, another person, another whatever it is, then you are by definition victim. That doesn't mean that you're not fighting. It doesn't mean you're not protesting. It's just clear you're a victim. That's all there is to it. And so for people to tell me stop acting like a victim or stop thinking like writing like a victim, I don't even talk to those people.
Yeah,
I
there's no
just
point.
smile at them and wander gently away and curse them out in my head. I was raised, I in one of my poems I say, I was well born and well bred. And so the stuff that I say in my head, if God really does get you for not just the stuff you think say, but the stuff that you think,
Think.
I'm going down. I am in so much trouble. I will get up to the pearly gates and St. Peter will look at my accounting and go, okay, this is good, really good. Oh, wait a minute. Here's the whole list of the things that you were thinking. And I won't even get ushered into hell. Okay, the trap door will just open under my feet and I'll plunge straight down. Um, so the the strategy is, as you say, to let people know, yes, I hurt, but there's that magic
Is
but.
that but?
But this is why.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to say, if you're going to acknowledge that I am in pain, it doesn't stop there. That's, this, because this is not about your comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say, yes, I hurt, and you have to hear why I hurt. Because not giving me that, how should I'm not going to say, yeah, not giving me that space, not allowing me that is, again, a nod to your convenience, to your comfort, which is what got me into the situation in the first place. So, I had um, somebody write to me. Now, this is someone that I've known for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And at one time, we were really, really close. And the only reason the friendship sort of, went back burner was because I just was proximity. I moved.
Yeah.
And, we would shout out to each other on Facebook and wave hi, do that sort of nonsense. For the entire time that all of the stuff with the protests and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud and Floyd and Wall, that I didn't hear a word from this person. You know, other friends were writing in, God bless them for it, checking on, are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, are you, can you want to talk about this? Are you in a safe, you know, just nothing from this person. The day after the scandal about the Vogue color cover for Kamala Harris came out, that's when she reached out to me and said, "Can you explain this to me?" And I said, "Why are you asking, you know, this was all via text message." I said, "Why are you asking me?" And she comes back with, "Well, I know you've always been interested in women's causes and, you know, protecting women." And I'm like, what the and so I wrote back to her and I said, you know, the question, why are you asking me? She said, well, I'm asking a lot of my friends and you just, you know, happen to be on the list. Okay, sure. So I said, I got to tell you right now, I'm feeling like your available Black friend. And that's who you want to talk to. And she got very, very upset. And much to my shock, I didn't care. It was like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a line in one of the poems in the book that says, what really happened was I stopped being your available Negro. So that that whole sense of, well, I would explain it, you know, or I would understand if you would just, you know, explain it to me, if you would just teach me this. You know what? Take your pearls and clutch them somewhere else. I don't have time for this. I just don't. Because it's been 400 years of me trying to explain this to you. If you haven't gotten it by now, then we really need to stop talking and you need to go and read a book or something. Um, you know, watch a documentary. I told, there was one young woman who had posted something. Oh gosh. I I don't know her, but I had been reading her other posts. And I know she didn't mean it the way she wrote it. She didn't. So I wrote to her and I said, this might be seen as, and she wrote back this heartfelt apology and said, I'm really sorry. Um, you know, this is, she's not from this country. She's from Switzerland.
Got it.
She said, I don't understand. How do I get past it? So I said, you read and you ask questions. And if you find somebody like me who's willing to talk to you about it, then you call them up. Here's my number. So she called. We had a nice 2-hour conversation about the way things move and have been and are happening in this country. Um, that, as far as I'm concerned, is a responsibility. But, you know, then again, it comes straight from, if I say I'm in pain and you're really interested in figuring out what's going on, then you have to let me talk about it. And if you have contributed to that pain, then you got to take it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, and that was the big thing that changed the writing voice. It's like, you got to take it, and I'm not gonna apologize for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a whole suite of poems in the new book called "Karen, Your Mammy Done Left the Building." Because after a while, you get tired of holding people's hands and wiping their noses.
Yeah.
400 years is a long time to do that.
Yeah.
62 years. Well, I haven't been doing it since I was born. It just feels that way. So, you know, we'll split a little difference here. 50 years. It's too long to be doing that.
Absolutely. I always like to use the analogy when when I wrote my book Enough, speaking about abuse. And this crosses a lot of different areas, but
Mm-hmm.
let's say somebody stepped on your toe, right? They didn't see it, they stepped on your toe, right? The fact that they didn't see your toe, that they did not intend to step on your toe, does not negate your pain.
Exactly.
And if you say to them, hey, you stepped on my toe, so that they know, like, hey, my toe's here, please don't step on it again. And they get mad at you and say you shouldn't have been standing there, or you have no right to come at me with, your anger. I didn't even know your toe was there. That's abuse. That's called emotional abuse. And
Hmm.
you don't have to put up with that.
It's what we used to call in my house a qualified apology. You know, like I had some little boy at some I was at a school, what we used to quaintly call reformatories. I used to do a lot of work with that population, and I was doing a show and a workshop. And I tend, people say, well, you have to treat these different populations differently. No, you don't. I treat all these kids like they were my, 11, this was an all boys unit. These were all my, 11-year-old nephews.
Yeah.
Okay. And so some little boy popped off with something, and I answered him back as I tend to do. And so he called me a bitch. So I threw him out of class. So I'm sitting in the teacher's lounge, later on, sitting for those of you incidentally who are not teachers. If you go into schools, when you have a break, don't go sit off by yourself somewhere. Go sit in the teacher's lounge, because that's where you find out where all the bodies are buried. You find out the culture of the school. You find out how the school works. You find out, as Aretha, saying who's zooming who. I mean, you find out everything. So I'm sitting
Mhm.
in the teacher's lounge, and here comes boyfriend, and he has, the hand of the law in the form of my liaison on his shoulder. And he looks at me, and with every, I mean, it was like the words were being just like carven in stone and dragged from his throat. And he says in this exact tone, "I'm sorry." And I just looked at him, and I'm like, I don't feel like playing today. So I said, sorry for what? Because when my nephews were little, it's always, I don't want to hear I'm sorry. I want to hear why you're sorry. What did you do bad? That whole thing. He said, I'm sorry I called you that name. Now, I know what he's expecting. And I know, because I know the culture of the school, that I'm supposed to like be the grown up here and say, well, thank you for owning up to that. I accept your apology. Yeah, whatever. He said I wasn't playing that day. So I said, I was just doing my job, and you made it personal and unpleasant. Why? Well, I was just having a really bad day, again, by script. I was having a bad day, and I wasn't being responsible for my da da da. And I just looked at him and said, you know what? In my house, that's what we call a qualified apology. And you're really only making it because you have to. And so, no, I don't accept your apology. Thanks for coming. Bye. And he had this look on his face like, but she's supposed to say it's okay. And no. So that I hurt you because I victimized you, because I oppressed you, because I was having a bad day, is a qualified apology. I don't want to hear it. I didn't understand because nobody has explained to me. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain it to you. You know, I didn't hear what you were saying because I don't know whatever language of the heart that happened to be. Mellow. I can fly with all of that. I tell people there are two kinds of ignorance. You're ignorant because you don't know, or you're ignorant because you don't care. One
Hmm.
is curable, the other one isn't.
Yeah. Well, this is about the time when I like to transition
Mm-hmm.
into doing this little exercise
Okie
that I
dokie.
always enjoy. So if you would like to play along, you can close your eyes, take a nice
Okay.
deep breath, and as you breathe in, bring colored light into your body and just tell me what color it is.
Well, it's colors.
Nice. What do you got?
I got corals and flush reds and blues, blue greens, and teals.
Ooh, that sounds gorgeous. Okay, give me another one. Breathe in and see what you get.
Sand white and burnt gold.
Okay, fabulous. All right, keep your eyes closed for a moment. And I'm
Hmm.
going to kind of wave my magic wand over here. And when I do that, everything that you deeply desire will come to pass right here, right now. And I want you to tell me the first thing that you see in this new ideal reality. Magic wand waved.
Magic wand waved. Okay, my Antonio Banderas is not here, so
Like,
I
what? It didn't work.
it so I think probably your magic wand needs a reboot right there. Everything that I want in the world. Um, I want every kid in the world to not go hungry today.
Hmm.
I want okay, let's stop saying I want. In my new reality, no kid
Yes.
goes hungry
No kid
ever,
goes hungry ever. Got it.
ever. Um, Everybody actually is treated the same legally and everything
Mhm.
else. Um, every country in the world is run by a woman.
Woo!
We'll let the guys do what they can do, but the big decisions are coming from all of the big decisions are coming from women. Personally, I have enough money to set up foundations for all of my nieces and nephews, buy houses in at least 6 different countries, and fund. There's about 50 charities I would like to fund to the tune of about 5-10 mil a piece.
So I want you to see one of those houses. Just pick one.
Mhm.
Tell me what it looks like.
This one is in Italy,
Oh, gorgeous.
in the middle of rolling and waving fields of grapes, most
Mm.
likely grapes
Hmm.
and grain. There is a road that winds and curves, not too much because I tend to get motion sick, down to some form of water. I've got to have water.
Yeah.
Um, so water. There are at least um, 3 different levels and a gatehouse. Okay, what they use a gardener's cottage as such. The gardener's cottage is for when I have people over. They get the house. I go in the gardener's cottage.
Nice.
Um, Lots of dogs. I had dogs all the time I was growing up, and I haven't had one for years, and I really want a dog. So at least 5 is good. Um, a stable,
Hmm.
a riding stable, and somewhere on the property is a meeting place, training space, conference hall sort of a thing. So
Hmm.
I can fly all of my art buddies in,
Yep.
you know. Oh, and the helipad.
Gotta have the
Okay.
helipad.
Got to have the helipad because I will only spend 6 months of the year there. The
Hmm.
other 6 months, I will be flying all over. I don't want a private plane. I think that's too much. Just go ahead. I just need a helicopter to get me to the airport. I'll take a commercial flight. I'm not proud.
All right.
I'll be in first class, damn it, though, because coach is a pain. I really don't like flying coach. and, and I'll be performing.
Hmm.
So for 6 months out of the year, I'm running around and performing. And then the other 6 months, I will be at my villa.
I want you, I want you to see yourself on stage now. So there you are.
Mm-hmm.
And there's someone in the audience, and you can see that you've just broke them open. You know that
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Oh, yeah.
And they come up to you afterwards, and what do they say to you?
This has happened more times than I can count, and normally they don't say anything. They cry
They just cry. Yeah.
or they hug me. Or they do both at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they are, if they're capable of speech, it's usually just "that's me," or "how did you know," or "that was amazing," or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, there's not a performance poet on the face of the planet who hasn't gotten somebody who walks up to them and says, "How did you know?" Speaking about whatever poem it
Yeah.
was. Um, I have a poem on that I wrote years ago on a woman who's leaving a domestic abuse situation.
Hmm.
I have yet to do that poem where some woman doesn't walk up to me, look me dead in the eye and say, "That's my story. How did you know?"
Yeah.
Um, so it gets interesting. I had an apprentice who, the light side of that is, I had an apprentice who wrote a poem about um, taking Spanish classes, and the
Hmm.
teacher keeps her after one class and says, "I'm really curious, why are you taking Spanish?" And her answer in the poem is, "So that I can understand the songs that my husband is singing into, to our unborn baby every night, into my, next to my belly every
Yeah.
night." Beautiful, beautiful piece. Okay. So, and I've witnessed this twice. I witnessed this twice now. So, she gets off stage and she goes, "We were in a wine bar for that particular reading." And she orders a glass of wine. And this woman comes sailing up to her and almost knocks the wine glass out of her. And, "What's the matter with you? You're pregnant. Don't you know about fetal alcohol?" And proceeds to lecture her on fetal alcohol syndrome. And my apprentice is in there going, "Wait, it's just a poem. I'm not And this woman's not hearing it. She
Yeah.
knows the power of the word. Okay.
Right?
Um, she did this same poem at some, you work coffee houses and bars and everything else. So we were at this bar and she had done the poem. She gets off stage and she's outside and he's smoking. Same thing. Somebody comes, knocks the cigarette out of her hand and gives
Ugh.
her a. I myself, ages ago, I had a poem. I still have it. I haven't done it lately, about a woman who's explaining why she's a hooker.
Hmm.
Okay. The beginning of the poem is, "I ain't no I ain't no hooker, I ain't no pro, I'm a hoe." And she breaks down, why she's that. And I had done that for a show and, for senior high school. Okay. And so the teacher, this was back in the days when, all the students wrote you thank you notes. And I'm reading the thank you notes, and this one little boy just leaps off the page at me and it's like, "I'm sorry. You're really good and you're really talented. And how could you possibly sell yourself? You shouldn't be living that kind of life. You could make a living, being a poet. You're really, really good at this." And
Oh,
half of
bless
me was
him.
just madly offended, and the other half of me was like, "Wow, I really did my
Yeah.
job."
Oh my gosh.
And I took great pride in answering every single thank you. And so I wrote him back, and I'm like, "Sugar, I'm flattered, but no, this is not my life. It was just a poem." So,
Oh my gosh. Okay,
so
I'm
the
gonna
the
I'm gonna take you back in one more time here.
okay.
You're gonna find a place on this property that you have
Uh-huh.
never discovered before, and it
Okay.
feels a little bit magical. It's like, wow, I didn't
Only
even
a
know this was
little.
here.
Okay.
I want you to see it for me and tell me what you see.
Okay. Um, that's easy. The minute you said it, it's like, I know this place. A lot of green and gold.
Yeah.
Sun dappling, not even dappling. You know how you get those like streams of sunlight
Oh,
through the
yes.
leaves,
Hmm.
and it's very quiet. Um, and I can hear water somewhere. Water is a big thing with me. I hear water moving somewhere. Not a waterfall, nothing that active. A stream or something, stream or creek or something. Um, and something tells me inside, this is the safest place on your property. This is where you come. when you're freaked, unhappy, whatever. I know this place because something in me knows that place. Um,
What can you smell there?
Ideally, because I love the scent, roses.
Mm.
Um, I don't see any, but I can smell them. I smell roses and I smell just various flower scents with just a little hint of lavender somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Lavender is more likely
Yeah.
in this place. Um, but the big thing is that overhead, there's this the canopy of trees as such only extends halfway. If I look over this way, I know that when it gets dark, I'll be able to see all the stars and they'll be this close to my face. Yeah, babe, I got this mapped out. Okay,
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah,
I've
you
been thinking
do.
about this for a
I
little
love it.
while.
I love it. Gorgeous. Love that. Well, let's wrap right there. And why don't you tell the wonderful people at home two things. First, what
Hmm.
what would you like them, if nothing else, to walk away with from what you said today?
Don't be afraid to open your mouth,
Mm.
regardless of what's going to happen. If you have something that is burning to get out and you know it, it's going to hurt. Yes. You're going to fall and scrape your knees. Absolutely. Do it anyway.
Do it anyway. And where can they find you?
They can find me, unless they're coming to my house.
Where can they find your
I,
books? Let's start with
thank you for. You can
that.
find me online. Lovely and Suffering. Let me actually, Sierra will love me for this.
Of
Let me hold
course.
up the book right here.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Lovely and
gorgeous,
Suffering.
isn't that? Such a beautiful
Sierra
cover.
did the cover.
Mm.
I'm gonna brag on her.
Mm-hmm.
So this you can find at just about anywhere right now. It's in wide release. So Barnes and Noble, Bookshop.org, Amazon, Target, for heaven's sakes. Um, if you want an autographed copy of the book, then you go to my website, which is www.saintwinterrains.com. Um, or you hit me up on Facebook. Jesus knows I'm always on Facebook. So if you send me a line that says, I saw you on this podcast and I really want your book, then I am not one of those people who lets their emails pile up. I have a thing about that. So if you write to me and say, I saw you on the podcast, and I will answer you. If you want to speak to me, just say, I'd love to speak to you in person. Let me know that. I'll send you my phone number.
Fabulous.
Um, Art has to be, and artists have to be accessible. And if you heard something or saw something that you liked, then I'm honored. I'm flattered. I'd love to hear from you. On the other hand, as I say in my concerts, if you didn't, I'll need to hear about it. You may
Yeah,
keep that to yourself.
absolutely. Yeah, and I want to say if you have, your favorite local bookstore, like an indie bookstore, just ask them to order it.
Yes, they can. I have a friend who walked into some, little bookstore somewhere in Vermont or something
Hmm.
and ordered it. And I guess she'll get it by the end of the week or something like that.
There you
So,
go.
yeah, independent bookstores anywhere. I said, all you got to do is ask.
Yep. Well, thank you so much. This has been
Thank you.
absolutely
This was a
wonderful.
blast.
Yay! I hope you'll come back and let us know how things are
Anytime,
going.
honey.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.